Well, I'm finally getting around to getting this tiller work done, and if you've seen on an earlier video, one of my concerns was I had grease leaking through this seal here, so I got to change that seal, which means I'll have to change this gasket on this cover. And then the other thing that was bad was this breather cap, so I got to change that. And first thing I got to do is I got to take all these bolts off around these around this cover. That's a 17 millimeter bolt head and nut. So I'll take that cover off and we'll go from there. Well, there's 14 bolts altogether, and there's 2 of them that are longer, like this one on the right, and the other 12 are shorter ones like that. The 2 longer ones go through this extra plate of steel on the front of the tiller. It's on the top side, and on the back side of the tiller it's up underneath. But both of them go through that extra plate of steel. That's why they needed to be about a 1/4 inch longer. It's about 1/4 inch steel there that they're going through, or 3/16 or whatever. And once you get your bolts out, you'll have to use a putty knife and get your gasket off. You'll have at least this in here originally had some silicone sealer on there to help seal it up. And then you'll see your chain, your drive chain. Next thing you want to do is take a screwdriver and get this spring over this bolt to the outside, and that releases your tension. Then you can take the bolt out if you need to, which on mine I don't think I'm going to need to. If you got to clean it up pretty good and everything like that, you can take it off. This bolt is it's a lock. This nut is a lock nut, and so when you put that back on, don't tighten it in any tighter than it needs to be to make sure that that moves freely and yet doesn't have too much slop in it. So I'm going to take this spring off, and then we'll go to the next stage. Once you pop that spring over, it'll look like that, and then as you can see, you got your slop in there. And one thing I forgot to tell you was to get this bottom bolt out, if your shoe is too low, you'll have to or too high, you'll have to drop that down so you can get that bolt out. But that's the only thing I guess to tell you on that. Next thing I need to do is take these 2 snap rings off. You can see there's a snap ring on the top shaft, and then there's another one down here on this bottom shaft, and those have to come out. When I first took this apart the first time, there was a lot of stinky sludge that come down all out of here. So when you take yours apart, you may have that sludge in there. What I did is I had to order parts, and I had to use this again, so I went ahead and just greased this up so I could use it and put it back together. And I just used grease to seal it and different things like that, just so I could use it a couple times until my parts came in. So that's why it looks as clean as it is. But anyways, then once you get your snap rings off, your sprockets will slide right off of there. Just kind of lift your chain out away from your tensioner and grab your sprockets, wiggle them, and they'll come right off. And then you'll have just your shafts. Now on the top side, I'm going to take this guard off. And that again is a 17 millimeter, and then you got 2 17 millimeter bolts down below. All those have to come off, and then you can collapse this out of your way a little bit. And I'll go ahead and pull those apart, and then we'll be ready to go on. These bottom bolts really only need to be loosened up just to release the tension, and once you take your top one out, then you can collapse that and slide it out of the way. Then I've got a nut on mine as a spacer, but I don't think that's original. That comes off, and then you've got 4 bolts here that holds your seal housing on, and there's an inside and an outside to that. Take those 4 bolts out, and then if you got to change your bottom seal, there's 4 more bolts down there that holds that. I haven't quite seen yet how the bottom shaft comes out. I'm not going to change that one on mine. If you do have to change that one, you're probably going to have to do a little figuring out on it to see how that comes out of there. But all I'm doing is just the top seal on mine. So I'm going to take those 4 bolts out and then we'll go to the next step. Now on these 4 bolts here that I just took out of that seal cover, the nuts are quite a bit thicker than the nuts for the chain housing. I'm not sure why they made them so thick, but they are, so just so you know. And anyways, once you get that housing off there, then you just take hold of your shaft, kind of work it out, and it'll slide right out of there, and then you can take your bearing off and clean your bearing, and then slide the shaft all the way out, and you can get to your seal housing. Which is there. And that was pretty neat. That actually landed right on that gasket, cut that gasket in two. And I don't need it. And so anyways, then here's your seal, and you just take and use a screwdriver and work your seal out of there, your old seal. You don't have to worry about hurting it if you're not going to use it again. Okay, I'll show you how I take this seal out. Basically, I just put the screwdriver in there and keep twisting it and turning it. It goes just a little bit at a time. If it's kind of rusted in there, you may have to take and tap on it a little bit first, get it started. But once you get it started, basically just keep going around and round and round and round and round. As you can see, my screwdriver's starting to go already, so there she is. That's how you take the seal out. Okay, now the new seal, the side that's got the, looks like a trough or whatever, like a round trough, that side always goes towards your wet surface. That's the side that actually seals. It has kind of a extra lip there. If you feel it, you can, if you put your finger across it, you can feel. That's what helps seal that. So you don't want to damage that. So what I do is I try to find a round socket or something that's close to that outer diameter as possible, and then gently tap that in. Okay, I found a wheel nut socket that's actually the exact diameter I want. So I'm going to actually use that and a dead blow hammer and use that to seat that seal back in then. And then just keep going kind of round and round on that. Make sure that you're putting it in as straight as you can. Okay, now you're ready to put your shaft back through the hole. Just get it through there and start your seal onto your shaft, and then you can slide your shaft through the guard and back into the gearbox. You can take it plenty on into the opening there, and then you got room to get your bearing in there. Your bearing has to fit up into that hole. Then you're ready to bring that up and fill that gap again. Your bearing is beginning to straddle about halfway of the hole there. And then once you got that, then you can kind of work your seal back on there. Kind of rotate it and you'll feel it go on there. And then, but before I put that on, I'm going to put a whole bunch of RTV sealant on there to make sure that that's dust tight. When you put this, these inner and outer seals on there, just these covers, and twist them back and forth to kind of work your sealant all the way around. Make sure that there's no empty spots then. Then do your inner outer cover, put your bolts on and tighten them down, and then you're ready for your sprockets to go back on. Now this next part I'm going to do a bunch of stuff all together, because your sprockets and your chain have to kind of be put together and slid onto the shafts together. So I'm going to tell you a few things here real quick. If you forget which way was which on your sprocket, one side's got the teeth in recessed in quite a little ways. The other side, your spline comes all the way to the outside. That's the outside actually. The spline should come out almost to the end of your shaft, and that's the same on both. And then the other thing is your bottom sprocket is your big sprocket, and your top one is your smaller sprocket. So, and you can't interchange those actually anyways. Your shafts themselves are actually different sizes. Did you see that? See how loose that is? It fits perfectly on this one. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some grease on these shafts before I put them sprockets on there. So I'm going to grease the shafts and put the chain around the sprockets, and then slide the whole kit and caboodle on there, and then we'll come back and go on from there. Yeah, once you get your chains on, then you're going to need to put your spring back on, set your tension, put your snap rings on your end of your shafts, and put a lot of grease on your chain. Make sure it's greased really good. After you put your snap rings on, just take a punch or something and make sure they're set all the way on so that they snap together all the way. And then after I grease it, I turn the shaft several times just to kind of let the grease work in a little bit before I buckle it, make sure it's there. To put your spring on, the easy way to do is just take a screwdriver behind it and just kind of set it on top of this nut and just bring it around till it snaps on there. It's actually pretty easy to put on. And now we're ready to put the sealant on and the gasket on for the big main cover gasket. And I'm going to put RTV sealant on and then put the gasket in place, and then I'm going to put the sealant on the other side of the gasket, and then I'll be ready for the cover. When you're putting your gasket on, you'll notice it's a two-piece gasket, and both halves are actually identical. Just make sure you get your tabs lined up a little bit. You've got tabs at the ends that kind of help lock it together. And then that's about all there is to that then. When you use that RTV sealant on there and put your bolt through, you'll have a little bit of RTV on the end of the bolt. I think that's a good thing. I think once you tighten it up on there, it just kind of acts almost like a nylock in a way. So all I got to do is tighten that on there, and then I got to change a breather, and then we're done. I won't show you how to change a breather. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. But, oh, and I got to put the guard back on. Pretty much all that stuff is pretty self-explanatory, so I won't waste your time with it. But thanks for watching.